Hey everybody. I miss getting to be with you on Sunday mornings and having Sunday school together, getting to talk together with you about the Bible. I really wish that we could do this in person, but under the circumstances, let's do something rather than nothing at all, right? So we'll go ahead and do Sunday school this way today. For the kids who are in my class, oftentimes when we start with some review questions of things that we're learning about kind of the way the Bible is put together. So I would often have my Bible, right, and I would ask you, what are the two big parts that make up the Bible? And so who's got it? Who knows? Right, you. The Old Testament and the New Testament. You're right. And if I were looking for stories about the life of Jesus, would I look for them in the Old Testament or the New? Right, good, the New Testament. And the New Testament, who remembers, what are the first 4 books in the New Testament? You got it? Anyone? Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, right? Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And what do we call those books? No. That's a good guess, but no. Anybody else? Yes, Gospels. Good. Good job. And what does gospel mean? Gospel means good news, right? So we have these 4 books, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, which tell us about the life and death and resurrection of Jesus, which is really the heart of the good news from God to us about Jesus. So the story that we're going to do today is from the Gospel of Luke and chapter 17. It's a story that only Luke tells us. The other 3 do not have it in their Gospels. But Luke tells us in chapter 17 this story, and I'm going to open my Bible to it so I can refer as we go. Now, the way this starts, this is Luke chapter 17, verse 11. It starts by saying, on the way to Jerusalem. So what is this talking about? Jesus is on his last journey to go to the city of Jerusalem. And why is he going there? He's going there because he is on his way to die on the cross for our sins, to make it possible for you and me to have a relationship with God. And it will be very, very difficult. It will be the worst thing that anybody has ever needed to go through. But Jesus is on his way to do exactly that. Why? Because he loves you so much, right? Really, this is why. And it's a journey. It's a journey of a number of days. He's on his way. And each step that gets him closer to his destination, each step that gets him closer to Jerusalem, is a step closer to a very painful suffering and death for you and for me. So Jesus is on his way to Jerusalem, and along the way, it says he was passing along between Samaria and Galilee. Now, Galilee was the part of Israel that he was from in the north. Jesus, you remember, was a Jewish man. His family, his friends were all Jewish people. There was a territory next to Israel at that time called Samaria, and the people who lived there were called Samaritans. Now, the Samaritans did not like the Jews very much, and the Jews did not like the Samaritans very much. They did not get along well. And it says that Jesus was passing along between Samaria and Israel. So he's out there in kind of the border territory where these 2 groups of people kind of bang up against each other. Now, it goes on, it says, as he entered a village, he he was met by 10 lepers who stood at a distance and lifted up their voices, saying, "Jesus, Master, have mercy on us." Okay, so now this is interesting, right? Because right now, we are in this whole lockdown because people are afraid of the coronavirus, the COVID-19. And so people are keeping a distance from each other. They're wearing masks when they go out. And there's this whole social distancing thing going on. This is a story about a group of people who had to practice social distancing, right? But it was not the whole nation. It was just the people who had this particular disease. And the disease is called leprosy. And if you have leprosy, you're called a leper, right? Not leopard with a D. It's not a kind of a wildcat. But a leper is a man or a woman who has this awful disease called leprosy. It's a skin disease. And it was very uncomfortable. And honestly, also, it made your body quite awful to look at because of the way that it damaged your skin. And it was miserable. It was really miserable. And part of what made it so miserable is that it made it so that you had to go and live away from other people. And you had to leave your family, you had to leave your friends and your work, and live out on the edges of communities. These people couldn't go into the village. They had to live outside of the village. And they lived together in a little group. In this group, there were 10 of them who had this disease, leprosy. But they couldn't go into town. But they saw Jesus and his disciples coming to go into the village. And it says, as he entered the village, he was met by 10 lepers who stood at a distance, right? They stood at a distance because they couldn't come close because of the disease. But they shouted to Jesus across the way. They said, "Jesus, Master, have mercy on us." And what is it that they want him to do? They want him to heal them, right? They want him to take the disease away from them. And they don't want to suffer anymore, the awful discomfort of this disease. But they also really, really want to be able to go back to their families, to be able to go back to living in town and doing their work and being a part of things again, right? They want things to get back to normal for them, which is really what a lot of people are saying today, isn't it? We just want things to get back to normal. And for these guys, they're just thinking, oh, if Jesus could just make this leprosy go away, then my life can get back to normal. And so they see their opportunity and they shout to him from a distance, right? They say, "Jesus, have mercy on us." Now, this was what Jesus did. Now, the way it worked, if somebody got better from this disease, and sometimes you did get better, but when you got better, before you could kind of re-enter the community, you had to go and show yourself to the priest. And the priest had to check you out and had to roll up your sleeves and show him that, look, the leprosy's gone. This isn't a problem anymore. And the priest had to kind of give you an inspection, kind of sign off on it. And if he signed off on it, then you could come back into the community. So Jesus, this is so interesting, right? Because what he does is he invites them to exercise a little bit of faith, right? So he doesn't just say, "Okay, you're all better, you're good." No, this is what he says. He says, "Go and show yourselves to the priests." And well, they could have said, "Well, but Jesus, we're not well yet. I'm still covered with this awful skin disease. So I can't go to the priest until I'm well." But what he has them do is just go ahead. Just go to the priest. And so, okay, well, they're willing to give it a try. And so the 10 of them start to go together to go see the priest, which is kind of a brave thing to do because they're going into the town. And they're not allowed in the town because they've got leprosy, right? But anyway, this is what they do. They start to go toward the priest, and as they are on their way, they realize, oh my goodness, look, I'm okay. And look at you, you're okay. You don't have this disease anymore. 10 of them, right? One of the 10, when he saw that he was healed, it says he turned back. And that leper ran back to find Jesus. And as he was going, it says he praised God with a loud voice. And when he got to Jesus, he fell on his face at Jesus' feet, giving him thanks. He was so thankful, so grateful that Jesus had done this for him. Now, the other 9, they kept going, right? And apparently what they did is they went and they found the priest, and he signed off, and they went home. But this one, when he saw what Jesus had done, it was just such an amazing, life-changing thing that he was drawn to go back to be with Jesus. And this is how the story ends. Jesus answered, "Were not 10 cleansed? Where are the other 9? Right? The other 9 didn't come back. It was just the one. Was no one found to return and give praise to God except this foreigner?" Because the one who had been made clean, he was a Samaritan. He was a part of the group of people that the Jewish people did not like. He was kind of a double outsider, if you know what I mean. He was an outsider because he had leprosy, but he was also an outsider because he wasn't one of the group, right? He was a Samaritan, he was a foreigner. And this double outsider, when he saw what Jesus had done that allowed him to go from being an outsider to being an insider, it just overwhelmed him with thankfulness and praise, and he just needed to get to Jesus. Now, here's the thing. Okay, so now I could tell you this story in a way that would be not very important, honestly, right? Like, I could tell you this story and tell you to walk away with this, and the walk away would be something like, so if somebody does something nice for you, you be sure to say thank you, right? Don't be like those guys who didn't say thank you. You be sure to say thank you. That's what your mom would want you to do. Do you know what? The story is about more than that. When Jesus looks at you, and he looks at me, he's not unconcerned about a problem that you might have, right? If you're sick, he's concerned about you. He cares about you. He cares about your body. But Jesus is about more than making your problems go away, right? Jesus wants not just to make life better for you. He wants to catch your heart. He wants to draw you in a relationship with him where you have become a follower of Jesus and you've become a worshiper of God because he's caught your heart. And now you're never going to be the same because what he's done for you is such a big deal for you that now you've been changed forever. You've gone back and you've laid hold of Jesus and you're saying, I thank you so much, Jesus. You tell me where to go from here because I want to be with you now forever. Now, the other 9, I think it was more like this. It was just like, Jesus, we've got this big problem. This is pretty terrible. I wish you'd make my problem go away so that I can get back to living my life the way I want to live it. So that things can go back to normal. Do you see? So it's kind of like this whole thing with the COVID disease, that a lot of people are saying, God, would you please just make this go away so that we can get back to life as normal, right? I just want to go back to normal. And honestly, sometimes what we mean by normal is, I want to do the things that I want to do. But this 10th leper, he didn't, for him, after he was healed, he didn't just go back to normal, right? It didn't just kind of go back to, okay, now I can go back to be with my family and I can do what I want and I don't have any problems anymore. No, Jesus took him to something new and different and better, which was a relationship with him, so that he was now a follower and a worshiper, and his life would never be the same. You guys, this is God's heart for you. Don't approach Jesus as somebody who is just about making your problems go away so that you can do what you want to do. Let Jesus be the one who calls you into something better, into a relationship with him that will change you for the rest of your life. Okay? All right. Thanks for listening, you guys. I hope we'll get to meet up in person again before too long. God bless you.